Hi, how are you? Glad to be here. I am Brantly.ETH. I'm Director of Operations at True Names Limited, which is the nonprofit that maintains the Ethereum name service. So like .ETH names and more. And we're going to be talking about blockchain and identity. First thing, we're just going to go through and have everybody introduce themselves and give a quick summary of their project. Let's start at the end.
Oh yeah. Hey everybody. I am not Galen. I am Ed. I also work on Urbit, and I'm a designer there. Urbit is the project of redesigning the personal computer from scratch. And our identity system built on Ethereum is one half of the project, the other half being an operating system built from scratch. That's all.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephania Silva. So I work on Eucratic. So we are building a CMS platform for the metaverse. So right now we are at early stage building our proof of concept of an NFT composable editor. And I have been working with crypto artists before, helping them to do their smart contracts. And yeah, glad to be here. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bradley Kam, co-founder at Unstoppable Domains. Thank you. And we build domain names on blockchains. Domain names are NFTs, which is why we're here. And I think that one of the surprising things about blockchain domains is that they can act as your decentralized identity. I think that's what we're here to talk about.
And I'm Brantly.ETH. Like I said, I work on the ENS project. ENS is the open public identity protocol of Web3. It's in hundreds of services. Did I mess something up? Looks like it's out of battery. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's in hundreds of services, Uniswap, Coinbase, OpenSea, Snapshot, CryptoVoxels, hundreds, tons of places. We just announced yesterday that we're starting a DAO. We're going to do a token drop next week. So if you have an ENS name, be looking out for that. This is just a key part of our evolution of having this protocol be owned by the community. Okay, first question here. What are you most excited about in the next year with your project and in the NFT space, identity space? Start at the end.
Okay. What makes Urbit interesting, just and a little bit unique, I think, in the grand space, is that the ways in which we intersect with NFTs, Ethereum, sort of the ways in which identity is sort of, I guess, involved with, ledger-based systems, is that it is, as I had mentioned, only one half of the project, but a very crucial one. With respect to how we're evolving the system to sort of make more use of the greater ecosystem, one of the things that I think I'm most excited about is sort of taking this idea of what an operating system is, which we all know, via our phones and laptops and everything, and basically just sort of like imagine what a truly Web3 native operating system might look like. When I think about like wallets and such, and the way that they hold NFTs, a lot of it seems like static, like a trophy case. Your NFTs are gathering dust in there. And with how we're sort of thinking about NFT and digital goods through Urbit, there are ways of sort of making these NFTs more actionable, more alive. They could actually maybe impart themselves usefully within an operating system context. And that's a sort of landscape that we're exploring a lot more next year. That's all.
Yeah, with my project Eucratic, something that we are looking forward in the identity space is that we would like to enable people to own their personal space, but also have the possibility to link it to their wallet and have privacy within that space. Yeah, that's.
So I think for those of you that have been following blockchain domains for a while, you'd probably be thinking about them in terms of receiving crypto. For example, you could send me money to brad.crypto, tips not necessary. And you can also launch a website on IPFS and point that to your domain name. But there's another use case that I think that we're potentially even more excited about, which is logging in with your domain. And we just launched this feature, log in with unstoppable domains. Shout out to Cook Finance if you're here, first app to integrate it. There's several more either in the works or maybe that have just gone live this week. And what's happening here is when you log in with your domain name, you're permissioning a server and you're able to share information privately with an app. So the goal here is to decentralize the internet to hopefully replace things like Google Auth and Facebook Auth with something that is user-controlled, interoperable, and built natively for crypto and crypto dApps. So anybody out there who has a dApp would love to talk to you afterwards about the login feature.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited about the ENS DAO and token launch next week. We're redesigning our manager app, which I'm really excited about. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen screenshots of it. It's in development. Sign in with Ethereum. That community standards project, the EIP, is pretty much set, and that should be being released very soon. So lots of things to be excited about. Okay. What are the biggest challenges for blockchain identity right now, starting at the end?
Oh, wow. Well, I have to say that in some of the testing that we've been doing for getting people to sort of wrangle, what Urbit is as a system, which for those of you who are aware of the system, it can get a little bit, hard to sort of describe very succinctly. The problem that we've been encountering over and over again is just a lot of the ways that like sort of Ethereum-based like authentication and just sort of these layers of just how to actually get someone who is sort of fresh to this space more involved with the system. I find that over and over and again and sort of time again, onboarding and just getting people into the various systems that we all seem to be working on is just one of the hardest things to do. And anything that we could really collectively do to ensure that onboarding is sort of like one of those things that is the diamond in our circlet, so to speak, the one thing that we polish and make very, very good seems to be the most important thing to sort of get right and overcome.
Yeah, for me, an interesting challenge that I see today within NFTs and blockchain identity is the fact that, for example, we can have an online identity in a wallet, but what happened when this wallet, for example, someone dies and then they cannot access those assets, those NFTs that were collected within that wallet? How can we enable a system where the family can have access to the identity of the person and then be able also to take ownership of those assets from their family member?
So I would say the biggest problem is fees. So right now, domain names or NFTs, minting on Ethereum, I think the last time I checked was something like, I think like $50 or something like that for a domain name, and then something similar if you want to make an update, if you want to add information. So we're going to be launching on Polygon. I think this is like 2 to 3 weeks away, something like that, or even less. And that's going to take fees to almost nothing. But I think that this is a broad statement about blockchain identity and about NFTs in general, that fees have been a really big problem. And hopefully 2022 will be the year where that's not so much the case.
I agree about fees. I would also add privacy and security. I think are two very hard problems just in blockchain stuff in general, and that applies to blockchain-based identity. I'm heartened, though, when it comes to security, that there's great experiments with social recovery and multi-sigs, things like this in contract wallets. I think we're going to see more of that as we go forward. And then when it comes to privacy, we need better privacy-preserving solutions for storing and accessing data. A lot of ideas there. We need to see more implementations. Okay. What would you see as long-term challenges of storing social identities on-chain?
Ooh. I mean, I feel like in some of the previous talks that happened, some of the implications of storing, biometric data, personal data, et cetera, on-chain could be dangerous, if these things ever get sort of pwned in any way. I guess to the point of the way that, speaking to our project and the way in which it intersects with blockchains works, is that I think one of the sort of theses that we're pursuing at Urbit is that we believe that computation, owning a personal server, it really is at the core of just, what it means to be a person on the internet, to have an identity, so to speak. And I guess to that point, we really do see the sort of taking of personal information, conversations, biometric data, and having that all on something like a personal server is really the crux of what our sort of the aim of the project is. We don't see a useful personal computer being on chain at all times. As we all know, that's way too expensive, just way too intensive on a majority or a lot of fronts. And so just rebuilding the computer, ensuring that everybody has something of a personal blockchain of sorts in a way that Urbit uniquely works is at the core of what we're doing. And this isn't something that has to be public, like data could be selectively released to doctors, for example, if medical applications were ever built on Urbit. And so there's kind of a balance in the way that we're approaching it and the way that we think about it. And that's kind of just how we're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, an interesting challenge of storing identity on chain is the fact that we can have we can have ours. Sorry, would you mind going next?
Just long-term challenges.
Oh, sure. I think you probably don't want to put your identity information on chain. I think you want to put your identifier on chain. And a blockchain domain is an identifier, a name, something that you can easily share with people. But your actual identity information, I think you're going to want to store that on a server that you control and then permission that information to other apps. And the beauty of this system is that the user is always in control, and the user doesn't have to use a name that identifies them personally. They could use a pseudonym, a nickname, something where if they want to be, almost completely unknown. That's all possible. You as the user choose. If I have bradcam.crypto, obviously you're going to know who I am. If I use some sort of kooky nickname I have for myself that no one else knows, that solves the problem.
Super key.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot what I wanted to say. But basically, what it would be interesting to do is to store, to be able to store certain amount of data that can be encrypted, but at the same time we can have things that can be on chain. For example, could be super interesting to have like degrees that are on chain, so we can easily verify if someone actually studied a certain subject, or if they actually worked for a certain company. So it would be super interesting to be able to obtain tokens based on those experiences that we have throughout life. But at the same time, the risk is that there are certain kinds of information that would be better to encrypt them.
Yeah, something that comes to my mind on long-term challenges is, when it comes to social media, people say, well, you post on Twitter, Facebook, it's there forever or something. They can haunt you later. Well, with blockchains, it's like, that's really, really true. So anything that you do end up doing on-chain, it really is there forever. And so I think that is going to be a challenge that we're going to have to work through, technologically and also culturally. And then also just security. On a long enough time horizon, are you going to have some sort of security problem or something? And like I said, I'm heartened that I think the massive burgeoning wallet/private key management industry has made huge strides in the last few years, more than we had for decades prior to that. And I'm expecting that will continue to improve.
If there's actually one more thing that I really, saw as a nice kind of line of thinking here, is that I think we all acknowledge that we live in a society. It's worth having something of an immutable identity that lives on chain in the way that many identity projects do. But we have to acknowledge that not all facets of a person are necessarily things to be encoded, in society. Which I think it's good to hear that there are other projects in the space thinking similarly. Yeah.
Great. Let's talk about censorship, or the lack thereof. How does your project deal with the topic of censorship would be a negative term, moderation would be, I think, a more positive term. How does your project deal with it?
Yeah, moderation's a really deep subject. We don't have to go far to see how the largest systems in the world are dealing with moderation. It's effectively, like at scale, a really difficult problem to solve. Not even the Facebooks or Googles of the world can throw their nearly infinite resources to solve it. The way in which we sort of think about communities with respect to how Urbit specifically operates is that due to the sort of P2P nature of how individual nodes in the network operate, when you exist in a group using, our Discord-like application landscape groups, you basically exist in something of basically just like a sort of record that just cannot be accessible to anyone else. So let's say I have like a knitting club, there really is no way to sort of publicly attain the address or even the materials within my knitting club. I think just the way that we handle it is that we kind of treat some of the dreams of just true P2P networking and sort of, I guess, like apply that to just keeping the network very local or optimized for people to sort of interact with one another on a local basis more than anything else is sort of how we've solved it. So, if you're in a small knitting group, it's very unlikely that I'll need to ban anybody if everybody there is my friend, And we just try to keep a very sort of like localism first approach to a lot of the way that we think about this. I think that's it.
Yeah, for me, so basically moderation is a challenge. So we could also take advantage of communities who could help us moderate. For example, in digital spaces, like if someone abuse and lies about their identity, we could also use communities to be able to see whether something it doesn't look normal, and use them as a way to kind of like help the community.
So I think it's really important for the base layer of the protocol for the user to be completely in control. This is the only way to get a secure system. The user controls their identity with their private key. But the reason why I think moderation is going to happen is because you're using that identity inside of apps. And apps are going to be able to choose whether or not to read a specific record on the blockchain. So I think very similar to the way it works in Web 2, apps are probably going to choose, hey, you shouldn't be part of my platform or whatever.
Yep, we're out of time, but I'll just say .eth names are fully self-custody. Nobody can take it away from you. There's pros and cons about that. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. And
thanks.
Great talking here.
Thanks, everybody.